Hello, and welcome to the Butler Beat. I'm your host, Jeff Stonick. Nearly $750,000 is this year's amount for the Butler's Student Government Association. It is the biggest budget spending plan in SGA history. Joining me today to talk about what that means for Butler is Student Government Association President Mike Keller. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
$748,409 is the largest budget that has ever been approved in the history of the organization. How many people are actually in control of that money?
So the SGA budget is allocated over 6 different boards, the majority of it going to program board, which has several committees. All in all, it's probably about between 20 to 25 people or committees that are in charge of this massive budget.
What is the process like for getting a budget approved? Does the SGA decide what they want and that amount is voted on, or does a different group decide the amount?
Yeah, unlike our tuition, the student activity fee that every student will pay is completely decided by the students where that money is going to go. For the SGA, we have a several sort of stage approval process where we get our exec board together. We come up with a, looking at last year's budget and looking at the requests and expenses of the previous year, we put together sort of a preliminary budget. Then that goes to Assembly for approval. Last year they did it a little differently. They did it all the way back in April to try to give people the summer to have an idea what their budget will be. So Assembly then will discuss it, debate it, and approve it. And then once we usually find out by the middle of September what our actual budget will be, we usually have the benefit of adding some more money to allocate. And once again, that takes Assembly approval. And any student is welcome to come to SGA Assembly, tell us if they don't feel our money should be going to this or that. And it's a very open and very transparent process.
So what are the reasons you saw a budget increase necessary for this year?
That's one of the great benefits that come with having this largest freshman class that we've ever had. 2 years ago, when my class came to Butler, we were the largest class that Butler had ever had. So you add all that together, there's just more students here at Butler than there's ever been. And as a result, we have more student activity fee coming our way.
So you find the largest budget being very beneficial, or is it a lot of added pressure and responsibility to the SGA?
It's by far more beneficial. With more students comes the need for more money to go towards the programming and the services that we need. More students will be using the shuttle, more people will be attending our events. All these things, it's a nice benefit, but there's also an added need that comes with it.
Is the entire budget handled as a whole, or are different portions separated for different groups to distribute where the funds are needed?
So every budget is pretty much delegated to the respective vice president who's in charge of that board. And in some cases, such as finance committee or on program board, they have committees beneath them that are then sort of in charge of their own budget. So a great example is on program board, Out and About committee on Indianapolis. Stephen Tomich is our vice president of programming, so he has sort of a broad control over that budget, but he gives the big chunk to the Out and About and Indy committee, which is about 2 or 3 students, and they have the final say in sort of arranging different programs that we're going to spend that money on. And of course the post office is involved in all these things. They're usually the ones who are finally authorizing the transfers over and actually handling the money exchange.
Events sponsored by the SGA, such as Butler Palooza, occurred before the approval of this year's budget. Did those funds come from anticipation for this year, or was it a rollover fund from previous years?
It is based more off of anticipation. Last year was something they tried a little bit differently, where we did approve a preliminary budget, a very, very conservative estimate way back in April. So this was the first year where they did actually have a sort of baseline to go off of, and then we were fortunately able to add them a little bit more after the additions came in. But in years past, yeah, that's what it was. It was based a lot off of last year's speculation with the hope that Assembly would grant them the roughly same budget that they've had in years past.
Does any faculty member or administrator have input on how the money is used, or is it completely up to the SGA?
That's the wonderful thing about student government, is that it's all it's a student-led organization. Students have the say from where this money gets allocated from the start of the process to the end. The post office is there to make sure that we don't enter into contracts that are skewed against us or make any poor decisions that way, but they never have ever tried to, influence us to say where money should go or what things we should be financing and what things we shouldn't. So that's what's just the wonderful thing that comes with Butler's SGA, is the fact that it's all student-led.
With Butler in a $2.28 million deficit this year, is there any pressure from administration to not spend as much and return some to the university?
Thankfully, no, and I hope the call never comes. In the past, it's always been tuition dollars and university expenses has been kept very, very separate from the student activity fee. and it's handled very differently, completely ran by different offices and things of that sort. So yeah, thankfully, whatever budget problems or issues that might be going on one side of the university here doesn't really have much of an effect on us.
What events does SGA have planned, and what are they working towards accomplishing that no other previous administration has been able to do, because you have such a large budget this year?
So we're looking at providing a whole lot of new features that we, previous execs and previous SGA have not just been able to because of the budget. So we're taking advantage of the new renovations in Atherton, looking to provide a lot of technology in the place that students can really utilize it more than just eating as a place, maybe go work on a group project or a study space. So we're looking at some opportunities there. We also have, we're looking to create this new swipe system where for a lot of the program board events, you might have to get tickets or things ahead of time to prove you're a Butler student, because we're afraid of people maybe from the community or people who haven't really paid for these things to take advantage of them. We're looking at getting a swipe process similar to what Dog Pound uses, where you can just swipe your student ID and it'll keep track of the attendance at those events. Also might make assembly attendance a bit easier. So yeah, we're looking at a whole bunch of new options that we'll be able to use from this extended budget, plus also the budget excess that went into the rollover from last year has all provided us with just a lot of opportunities to be able to take advantage of.
With this new technology, do you work with any maintenance crews or any maintenance administration to work together to get these goals accomplished? Yeah,
it's a major collaborative effort, working with Student Affairs, who sort of oversees dining, working with Airmark, who has direct control of the dining hall. IT has always been extremely helpful in providing suggestions and details about what all would be needed and we can utilize. And then of course we try to bring as many students into the project as we can to get as much feedback as possible to see what people really want, what they really would utilize.
And finally, can you pinpoint one goal that you want to accomplish to help students under your presidency?
I really just want, by the time I leave office, I really want students to see SGA as the resource that they can utilize to try to change things on campus. And I know that's sort of, it seems vague, it's not something so easy to just pinpoint to say we need to spend this amount of money to do it. But I think once students realize that that's SGA's primary mission, that's what we're here to do, then we'll be able to see this place really change to the way students want to see it, and we'll be able to have a great dialogue about what needs to take place here to make it the place we all want to go to school at.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mike.
It was my pleasure.
In our next segment of this week's Butler Beat, Jill McCarter talks to the leader of a campus group which connects Butler students with the university administration. The Butler Beat will continue in a moment.
With a record-sized student body and busy administrators, it's not often that students get to give input to the top dogs at Butler. One group on campus, the Council on Presidential Affairs, works to give a voice to students looking to make a difference. Here with me today is SGA's Vice President of Administration and the head of CPA, Scott Nemeth. Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So tell me a little bit about what CPA is.
Okay, so CPA is a group of about 26 students who work to be the bridge between students and the administration. So we collect student ideas and we develop projects that we work on with administrators from Butler to hopefully make campus a better place.
And what's your role?
I'm the Vice President of Administration, which means that I'm the leader of the group, and I kind of oversee a couple of coordinators who then tell students what the projects are and help them out with them. So I'm just kind of the link between administrators and my board.
And how long have you been involved in CPA?
Since I was a freshman, so
oh, wow.
This is my 4th year, yeah.
So what kind of projects has CPA developed over the past years?
Well, since I've been on the board, we actually created a whole new committee called the Green Operations Committee, which addresses environmental concerns and sustainability issues for the campus. But I've seen a variety of projects go on. We played a role in making Atherton what it is today and the renovations with Atherton and improved food. We've created advocacy campaigns. I Am Butler, which highlights certain Butler students to show how every student is unique here at Butler. And then most recently, we completed a bike share project.
Tell me a little bit about the bike share project.
This is exciting. It's our first year doing it. We got 100 bikes. They're all painted blue and white, and they have Butler University on the side of them. and they're housed at the HRC, and this program is available to all students. And if you want to check out a bike for the day, it's free, so you have it for 24 hours, and it's as simple as going to the HRC, showing them your ID, signing a form, and picking up the bike. And then if you want to use it for the semester, it's $50, and you have the bike the entire semester.
And how much does it cost to get it for a day?
It's free for the day.
Oh, okay. So what kind of projects are you working on now?
Right now, in terms of green projects, we're working on a green summit, which is going to get student organizations together in a collective room, and we're going to talk about how it's simple for a student organization to kind of sustain themselves in a green manner. Some other things that we're working on a new Butler app. In addition to one that we already have, it would have maps that show bike racks, that show where the SGA shuttle is, where Brita water filters are, that sort of thing. And then we also have a lot of other projects going on too.
I know there was a list in Assembly of ideas that you guys had collected from students. Can you tell me a little bit about that list? And
well, what we did is we took student concerns from Assembly and from our monthly coffee chats, and we kind of created projects out of them. And then what we did was we brought them to Assembly this week, and we had them vote on them and tier them so that we kind of have a roadmap for what we're supposed to be doing, since we're really doing our projects for the students. So we wanted them to have a voice in what we do.
And how can students that aren't involved in Assembly give their input?
Like I said, we have our monthly coffee chats. So we set up a table in Starbucks where students can come, they share a concern with us, get something off their mind that they've been thinking of, whether it's simple as flooding on the sidewalks, or maybe they want a racquetball court in at the HRC. They share an idea with us. In exchange, they get a free coffee. So it's a pretty good deal, and it's open to all students.
What's the turnout usually like for those?
Well, we just had one last week, and we had 200 students utilize it, so it was great.
Very cool. And how would students be able to get involved in CPA?
Every year, we open it up to all students to fill out an application and go through that process, and then they get an interview with the Vice President of Administration, which this year was me, as well as our advisor, Caroline Huck-Watson. So we do that every year at the beginning of the year, and then sometimes, depending on needs, we open it up at the beginning of the second semester. And we're always open to having students come in and give us concerns.
Why do you think it's important for CPA to work on Butler's campus?
To me, I believe that it's a very unique thing. Not a lot of student government associations across the country have something like this. And the reason why I think it's so important is because it really allows students to work side by side with administrators to really bridge that gap. Since Butler is here for students, we want to make sure that our voices are heard so that Butler becomes a better place and that they know that the food's not up to our standards as students and that sort of thing.
So what can we look forward to with the rest of the year?
Well, we're going to be getting to work on those projects. We have about 40 that the Student Assembly wants us to work on, so we're going to be busy with those. The Green Summit's coming up, and then just kind of expect us to do bigger projects like we talked about last year.
All right. Thank you for joining us. That's it for this week's Butler Beat. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jill McCarter.